Okay, so today we are going to deep dive into self-help. I just recently went on a journey. Y'all know, you've been along for the ride, of where I deep dove into MLMs and I discovered a lot of things, and I also discovered a lot of overlap with self-help and MLMs, and it got me deep diving into self-help. And this is someone who's literally, I am someone who's literally in the middle of writing a self-help book. I'm not even playing. But that's what we're going to dive into today is self-help and where it started, what it is, what it means, all the things. And you'll notice my setup's a little bit different. I am trying out something new, and the last episode that I did was about the MLMs. And while it was great, I also feel like it was very tiring for me to sit there and project my energy like I normally would on a YouTube video. And I wanted something a bit more conversational and down to earth and not posed and formal. I don't know how to explain it, but to me that meant sticking a microphone in front of my face and basically recording a podcast episode on video. I don't know if this is going to make any sense. I don't know if this is going to translate, but to me this feels more conversational. This feels more like all of us having a conversation together rather than me just talking at the camera. So hopefully it is one, good quality. Oh, I got this fancy Rodecaster. I've actually been wanting it for a while, but I was holding off because it's really expensive, and I record podcasts by myself. I am a solo podcaster on my Hey Jessica podcast, and then on this. And so to me, it was it's not really worth the money. However, let me just tell you that it's worth every penny. I'm so excited about this because one, does this audio not just sound just magically buttery? I am so excited about the audio because my office is not super soundproof or sound optimized, I guess. And what that means is that a lot of times when I'm talking at my camera, where you guys are, I'm using the top of camera mic and it is bouncing off the windows, and I don't know, it just gets really echoey, and this is magical. Does it not sound great? I'm super pumped about this. But I think this will be a fun way to record and to do these episodes while also being able to have a really deep, in-depth, fun conversation. And, with you guys being able to see what a real-time podcast episode looks like. Although I will say, I am not normally makeuped and haired when I'm recording a podcast, because I normally record podcasts knowing I don't have to do video. And so I do them on an audio day. And yeah. Also, look at my hair. It's new. It's not new. It's technically old. So, if you've been around here in the last several years, you'll have noticed a progression of my hair going lighter and lighter and blonder, which is fine. And I actually really, really liked my blonde hair, but my hair is naturally this dark auburn red color. And I don't know, I just felt I was getting too far away from what my natural color is. And I spent a lot of years fighting that I was a redhead, a lot of years fighting that, that being a redhead wasn't cool. And it wasn't something you bragged about to your friends or whatever. Yeah, I have red hair. And so I spent a lot of years fighting it. Even my driver's license says that my hair color is brown. And I remember when I got my license or my permit, whenever I made that decision, my dad was like, Jessica, my dad's a redhead too. My dad was like, Jessica, your hair is red. And I just when I'm not in direct sunlight, it looks brown, because it's dark. But yeah, so anyway, I made this decision to go back to my roots. Literally. I will say that my hair has gotten less red. I don't know. Is that even a thing? But I think it is. Less red since I had kids. I don't know. It's hormonal. I don't know. Women are weird. I'm convinced that men have I don't know, they have a maid. Because I literally had babies and my hair color changed. That's weird. Is it not? I don't know. I think it's weird. But anyway, I have a hair distrust. Is that a thing? I distrust people with my hair, specifically when it comes to matching my actual hair color. And because it's like not a normal hair color, and almost every single time I've ever had a situation where I go to someone and I'm like, I want to go back natural. It turns out like burgundy, which is not my natural hair color. Like this is literally it. I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera. I can't really see my screen super well because it's kind of far away. But it's naturally a dark auburny red. And so I found this girl a county over from me in the college town, because like that's where all the cool things are, you know. And this person like massively focuses on, I'm playing with my footstool down here, sorry. Massively focuses on color and like on like good color, I guess, if you will, and natural color, and like she calls it like lived in color. And I went to her and she did a great job. I probably do want some like other strands a little bit brighter, kind of like this right here is, because I do love that. And she did a great job. But I think next time I go back, I'm going to get a little bit lighter in the bottom and keep my natural on top. And that's exactly what I've been wanting for years anyway. So here we are. But anyway, check out the hair, new hair, which is exciting. New setup, new sound effects. Oh, listen, you can make sound. I haven't taken the time to like program this, to my own sounds, but listen. Let's see, what else have we got going on here? I don't know. It's just really cool. This thing's really cool. It is well worth the investment if you were looking into getting one. But anyway, I want to make these like super conversational. Those of you who watch the MLM deep dive, you know that I like got to the point and whatever, but it also was really long. And so I want to say like, these are not meant to be short form content. I'm a rambler. Like I don't get to the point very quickly, and inevitably, it could be a 12-minute video packed friggin' full of awesomeness. And some dude in the comments will be like, she got to the point at 4 minutes and 29 seconds. And I don't know. It's just annoying. I don't want to get to the point. Like, I don't want to get to the point. Like, I don't care. I want this to be a conversation. I want us to have fun together. And I want it to be basically like a recorded podcast episode. And, we'll see where this goes. But I'm excited about these episodes. I'm excited to talk today about self-help and what that is. And I have my computer over here, so I may like look over there at some point, but I don't know. I'm excited to talk about self-help. And I think where this came from, let's start there. So let me back up. First of all of these things I say in this video are my opinion. They're not to be taken as fact. They're not to make up your mind. And they're also mostly formed by either my own experiences or research on the internet. And anything I cite that like has said something, I will make sure I link it in the description. Okay. So anyway, where this came from, I was doing this MLM research, and I'm like, doing my thing, researching the MLMs, and I'm like in the part of this MLM research where I'm thinking through their sales tactics, and where I'm thinking through like what they tell people, like how do they get people to purchase who probably wouldn't have, And it really came down a lot to preying on people's vulnerabilities, and to like telling them what they want to hear, and kind of not passing blame. Because again, I said this in my MLM video, but I'm a big fan of personal responsibility. So not necessarily passing blame onto people, but more so, using people's circumstance to kind of talk them into something, and not only that, but this like, if this isn't working, you're not doing it right. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's basically like any self-help ever. Like it is. And And it kind of, to me, what kept coming up over and over again, and I use this example in my email that I sent out to my email list, which if you're not on my email list, you should be. Oh, one quick thing. So I am several of you wanted a way to listen to this. And since I don't have the desire to have 2 podcasts that I have to record, and I already have the free Hey Jessica podcast, I decided that the best way to let you listen to these episodes, if you didn't want to sit here and watch, was to kind of lock them behind like a Patreon, except it's not Patreon because I don't like giving more of my money away than I have to. So it's actually like a different setup, which is not the point. The point is, get to the point, Jessica. The point is, you can listen. So if you don't want to sit here through this whole video, because it will be an hour plus long, honestly, and I'm giving myself the freedom and the flexibility to even like record these on a different day. Like I may start it today and finish it tomorrow. Like that's okay. I don't know. But my point is, if you want to listen and you don't want to sit here and watch, there is a way to do that. I will make sure the link is below in the description, but you can also go to heyjessica.com/curiosity, T spelled sweet T, not the way curiosity would regularly be spelled. And it's $3.99 a month. I'm truly taking like a note from Patreon and like what we would normally do there, or this like join button on the channel. And we're basically making the audio versions exclusive to anybody who wants to have them behind this like pay gate. And not only do you get the audio versions of everything you'll see here on YouTube during these deep dives, and just for the deep dives, like if I come out with a video that's like on a different topic and it's like a how-to or a tutorial, it's not going to be in there. But I am doing 2 deep dives a week for this foreseeable future. So like there's going to be a lot. But anyway, you'll get these, but you'll also get a bonus episode. So there's another episode in there that is audio only that I'm not releasing on YouTube. That is basically a deep dive into like the Great Resignation, or why everybody's quitting their jobs right now, because that's a whole thing. So yeah, it's a cool thing. So anyway, description link is in the description below. I can hear myself in this and it's thrown me off a little bit, but also I need to be able to like hear when I have something I want to play here in a minute. And anyway, heyjessica.com/curiosity. Link is in the description. $3.99 a month, and you can play it on any podcast player. It's not like an audio file that you'll have a hard time playing. It's literally a subscription link to like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you want to listen, which is pretty darn cool. I use a service called Hello Audio. I'll link them below as well if that's something you want to look into. But anyway, super freaking cool. Okay. Was I getting started? Yes, I was. This is what I'm talking about. Like, I just want this to be conversational. Like, I just want it to be, it doesn't have to be like super succinct and get to the point and like whatever. And also I'm struggling a little with this camera angle because I like it in general. Like, I like that you can see the desk and you can see the table and you can kind of see my thing and whatever. But when I lean on it like this, I feel like because it's my like angle, my camera is got a wide angle lens on it, my arms get bigger because they're closer to the camera, but also because of the wide angle, and it like skews things on the edges. So we'll see if I like it. But during all this research, I get to the point where it's like they all bring in Tony Robbins. All of the MLMs like bring in Tony Robbins. And again, all of these are my own opinions. Nothing is fact. Disclaimer. But they all bring in Tony Robbins, and I don't like Tony Robbins. Like, I truly don't like the man. I have never felt like he is someone I can enjoy. And I've said that before. He's just always like struck me as a creep. And like, if you like him, like whatever, I honestly don't care if you like him, but I do not. And I've actually met him a time or two in passing. It's one of those scenarios where like a friend of mine was talking to them or him and whatever. Still, same thing. I still feel like he's a creep, and I am going to stick with that. I trust my gut. And so anyway, I don't like Tony Robbins. And all of this kind of kept coming back to the fact that they were they were all getting Tony Robbins to come speak. And it's like, what does that mean? So basically they're using, like MLMs are using self-help as a way to indoctrinate or brainwash. I don't like the word brainwash because I don't know. Not that I don't believe in brainwashing. I definitely do. I think there are people who are brainwashed, but I don't know. I just feel like there's a better way to state it, and I don't know what that is. So anyway, they're using self-help. They're using the Tony Robbins and the Rachel Hollises of the world and, whoever else to come in and like hype these MLMers up to the point where they're just on cloud 12, not even cloud 9. We're going like cloud 12 over here, And they're just like, yeah, I can do this. I've got it. Blah, 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 da, 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 da. And also indoctrinating them with the thought that if I don't do this, it's because there's something wrong with me, It's not because my area is completely inundated with MLM sellers or because whatever, right? Like, it's not because of any of these external factors, which it probably 99% of the time is. It's because I suck, And as I start to tie that in together, I'm like, wow, I see the holes in self-help. Like, I see them. And, when we're really looking at what is self-help and who is self-help and who's doing these things and whatever, you're looking at the Tony Robbinses of the world and the Rachel Hollises of the world and, Kourtney Kardashian's Poosh or whatever, all these we have a ton of self-help out in the world, Kourtney Kardashian's Poosh and, is it Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop? Oh, I have to play this. This is one of the reasons I have my headphones in, because when I knew I was going to mention Goop, we have to throw in a Gilmore Girls reference. Are you ready?
Admit it, you've been gooped.
I have not been gooped.
You're doing yoga in the aisles, wearing cashmere sweatpants while your comfort dog watches Zoolander 2 on his watch.
I do blood clot prevention foot pumps, wearing my Yona Shimo Kanishri baseball cap while toothpaste dries up a zit on my chin. Wow, winded.
Haven't done that for a while.
Let me tell you, anywhere I can throw in a Gilmore Girls reference, I will, because I don't know. It just feels it almost always feels appropriate, and sometimes with this casual conversation type thing, I also want to make it really easy for us to edit and put up on YouTube and it not to be insanely hard or crazy or whatever. So my point is, I may not always be able to pull in a reference like that, but for that one, you're welcome. But you get it. There's so much self-help out there. Kourtney Kardashian, who is she? Kourtney, why is she qualified to tell us what food we should eat or what books to read? And the same thing with Gwyneth Paltrow. And honestly, the same thing with Rachel Hollis or Tony Robbins or really anybody in self-help. There are some people, obviously, in self-help who actually have clinical education in self-help or in psychology. Now, don't get me wrong. I am a big fan. I do not think you have to have a formal education in something to be good at it or to, whatever. But I think the difference, and that's kind of what I started noticing, is the difference is Rachel Hollis, Tony Robbins, okay? Rachel Hollis, Tony Robbins are literally giving you the formula for success, right? They're here is success, here is how I did it, and you should too. I mean, I read and enjoyed Girl Wash Your Face and Girl Stop Apologizing. And actually, it's funny because I wasn't ever, and I'm still not really, not that I'm not, because I totally see her problems, but I'm not the biggest Rachel Hollis hater in the world by any means. I'm not the biggest Rachel Hollis lover in the world. But I'm not going to sit here and bash her in general, because it's not just her, it's a lot of people, But the thing is, I actually really enjoyed Girl Wash Your Face and Girl Stop Apologizing because there are so many overlaps in Rachel's life and mine, so many overlaps. As she was talking through things, I was like, yes, Yes, because it was like the same stuff I have went through, or a similar childhood, or like whatever the scenario is, She grew up in a small town. I don't love that she like called herself country, because like she was in California. Not that there can't be rural land in California. There can be. I've seen it. But you're not really country, Like you can be country California. I don't know. If you're from California, you may disagree with me on that. But I don't think you can. I don't know. Anywho, so the difference is they're like throwing success at you in like a formulaic way, like in a this is how you do it way. Like there's no other explanation, like this is how you do it. And this is how you make it happen. I hit a button on my like do my floppy thing, but I think we're still recording. Like I know we are. Okay. So anyway, they're prescribing success to you. And I think what I can tell the difference is in people who are just, they've had success, or they've done good things, or they want to tell their story and show people they can do it too, versus someone with like clinical training in this arena, is that it's like prescripted versus not. And like Rachel Hollis, Tony Robbins, like things are like formulaic, like do this, like in Girl Stop Apologizing. I forget. I really should have pulled that book down. Or do I have a physical copy? I might have just listened to it on an audio book. As I wouldn't have read it. I don't know. Maybe I did. Anyway, in it, she like talks about how to hit your goals. Like she is giving you the formula for how to hit your goals. And I don't know. It's just like, there's a lot to unpack here. Like there's a lot to unpack here. And it's just very interesting, like I think it's interesting. I hope you guys do. I don't know. There's a lot. So I first want to like tell you what self-help is. Like I'm going to give you the ingredients. You make the pie. You know what? You know what I mean? So self-help. I don't know. I didn't look up the definition, but I feel like I can pretty well riff that one off. So self-help is basically, the practice of like not needing a professional's help to get better. I probably should have looked up the definition. That was a terrible way to explain it. You know what self-help is. Like, it's like reading a book and feeling like you can conquer the world. Self-help books are books that are literally designed to help you get past a roadblock or get past something, And listen when I tell you that I actually love self-help. I love it. And I think that there's a time and a place. And I think that I don't, like, you're going to hear me, I was going to say speak negatively, but that's probably not the right term. But you might hear me be a little critical of self-help or the industry as a whole, but also understand I will absolutely read a self-help book tomorrow. Like I don't hate self-help, and there are a lot of books that have changed my life. Literally changed my life. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that Girl Stop Apologizing was so good for me. I think it's because I listened at a point in my life where I needed that. And Rachel speaks in a similar way to what I speak. Like she has some like funny jokes and like, I don't know. I just feel like we speak similarly. And especially like listening to her audiobook, it felt like I was telling myself things, which is very weird. And we're not the same in a lot of areas, But my point is, I actually really enjoyed Girl Stop Apologizing, and it actually really helped me. And it helped me because I was at a point in my life where I was like burnt out. I didn't know what was next. I didn't know, where I was going next, like all of these things. And not in a dramatic way. Like basically I was just kind of like, what course should I launch next? I don't know, but it wasn't like dramatic. It wasn't anything crazy, but I just needed it at that moment. And I will say that it was actually a great book for me. And I can't discount that, even though I know that like supposedly, allegedly, she rips off quotes and, doesn't credit people. Actually, that's not even alleged. Like I've seen her do it. I feel like that's fact, but whatever. And that like a lot of the things in her books are fairly toxic and there's a whole conversation around toxic positivity, but also I really think like part of the problem in the world is people not being positive about things. Like I can see both sides of this coin. And I'd also like to say that that's another reason I want to do these deep dives is because I am someone, and it drives my husband crazy. Like it literally, like it drives him crazy. But I am someone who can see both sides of an argument almost always. And I actually think it's a great thing. My husband may disagree with me. I think it's great because I literally can see all sides of an argument. Like I can see why, this person voted this way and this person voted this way. And I understand both perspectives. I can see why this person feels this way for this thing. And like, I can see it all. And it actually makes it really hard on me, to be honest, to make up my own damn mind. But I will say that like, that is, I feel like one of my superpowers. And so it's one of the things that I want to do it's one of the reasons I want to do these deep dives is to be able to like, from one person to be able to bring multiple perspectives, which is weird. I don't know. Like, is that normal for like one person? It's kind of, speaking of Gilmore Girls, it reminds me of the time that I think it was Paris. Yeah, it's totally Paris. Paris and Rory are in college and they're in Yale. And I believe Rory has now taken over as editor of the Yale Daily News, and Paris has gotten over her, like being pissed off at her for that kind of situation. And Paris brings her a topic idea, and I think it's about tenure, like professors getting tenured and whatever. And she's like, I want to, like, I see both sides. Why don't we print a point counterpoint argument? And Rory's like, you want me to print a point counterpoint argument that are both written by the same person? Like, you're insane. And I feel like that's kind of what this is, because I actually am pretty good at that. Not always, but I definitely think it's one of my like better qualities. Is that I can see both sides, which makes life interesting sometimes. So my point is, I don't hate self-help. I don't hate it at all. I actually love it. And I actually think that it's something that can be really, really helpful for people and for, certain points in a life. But when it's weaponized, that's where we have the problem. And that's what happens. There's a couple things. That's what happens in MLMs, I think, at least from what I've been told, like from people who have had these conversations and had these experiences. Like, it is weaponized. It is like, well, Rachel Hollis said this, that, and the other. And I actually listened to, was it a podcast? Maybe it was a YouTube. I think it was a YouTube video, but I don't remember who it was from. It doesn't matter because I don't remember any of the names. But I listened to, I think it was a YouTube video, or I watched it, and they had pulled in footage from some MLM company. Maybe it was Arbonne. I don't know, but it was pulled in footage from like a meeting, like a Zoom meeting where the leader was like, this is how you do the things, one of those. And they pulled in this footage, and literally the woman was like, Rachel tells us, Rachel Hollis tells us. Like she was God or something, or like she was God's gift to selling an MLM, which I think she thinks she is, but then she shit on them in her new book, which I have not read. I can't bring myself to read another book of hers. I kind of was like, I'm done. I'm done with her. And I'm done with Dave too. Y'all, did you see? I actually was still following Dave. And then I wasn't, because basically he got on a live stream, and I did not watch his live, but I watched YouTube videos of it before. He gets on this live stream, and he's like telling his daughter to get a life. She's 4-ish, telling her to get a life because she wants pancakes, and he'd rather talk to his internet friends, which I understand. I have told my kids to get away before, like I'm working, mom's working, However, my kids are older. 1, and 2, I've never pushed them away for like 90 minutes at a time, especially if they were hungry. So anyway, he's doing that. But not only that, he says in the live stream, he's like, if you're following me and you have not bought my book, then get away, go away. Like, I don't know, you'd have to look it up to know his exact words, but it's something like that. Like, I don't want you here. Why are you here if you haven't bought my book? And it's like, wow, that's aggressive. I don't know, but I was following him. And then I wasn't, because I'm like, you know what? If you want me to go away because I haven't bought your book, there I go. But I think the main point I want to focus on in this is like the weaponizing of self-help and the idolizing people who just had a successful story. Now they may know some tips and tricks, but they're not God. They don't take into consideration everybody's perspective and everybody's experience. And that's really what I kind of want to like jam on. So anyway, I guess that's the point. Like when self-help becomes a weapon against people, like when self-help is doing more harm than good, or when self-help is like, you're not where you want to be because of you, right? Like when we weaponize self-help, I think that's where it becomes a problem. And I think that's where people see this be a problem. And I also think it's also because self-help as a whole, just like MLMs, goes after people who are in vulnerable places. And I mean, it's not on accident, but it's also not on purpose, I don't think. So I do think people like Tony Robbins prey on people who are vulnerable, right? Like he knows he's doing that. But I think as a whole, in the self-help industry as a whole, I don't know that it's that malicious. I don't know that it's that like, like whatever the word would be. Malicious is like the best word I can think of, Also, you like my clear like mason jar? Part of the good part of living on a farm and doing things like growing a garden is that I have these laying around all the time and they make cute water glasses. Anyway, so I think that's the part that people can't get down with is like, once you have your eyes opened to the fact that somebody like, I won't mention names, but somebody in the self-help world has been predatory in some way, you can't close your eyes to that. I think, oh gosh, that's been a whole conversation. I have had a lot in the last 18 months, a lot of things that my eyes have been open to that I can't then close them on, like once we know things, we can't unknow them, unless we're like Michelle Tanner and we fall off the horse. How's that for a good Full House, reference? Like we can't unknow what we know, and then that makes it harder to like move forward. So I feel like once I've had this revelation about self-help, that I'm going to have a harder time reading self-help books because I haven't tried yet. Like I haven't got a new book or whatever. But I think the difference, and for me, the big difference is when it's like memoir, when it's like this is my story and this is what I did rather than this is what you should do. I think that's a big deal, and like I said at the top of this recording, I am literally someone who's recording or like writing a self-help book. I have an agent. I'm in the middle of the process of like really finalizing the topic so we can chop it out. But I've had a lot of imposter syndrome about it. But also I think a lot of it is that, I don't know, it just feels like everybody's talking about the same thing. And I know like for me, this has really caused me to be like, okay, I need to make sure I approach it from, this is my story. Like these were my circumstances, because even like starting a business, like I teach people how to start a business. I talk about starting a business. I talk about quitting corporate and blah, blah, blah. And the more I'm like diving into this, the more I realize like, holy bananas. Like, yes, I am of the teach a man to fish, scenario, as Kirk says on when he tries to make a restaurant to compete with Luke's after he runs his car into the diner. But I am of that like mindset, but also I'm of the mindset that these things are not like mutually exclusive. Like these things are not just, like one size doesn't fit all. That's what I'm trying to say. And so I want to, like, as someone who wants to write a book, Like I'm really reevaluating like what that looks like and really thinking through like, okay, I don't want to be that person. Like I don't want to be the person who's like, you have to do this, 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 and this. And as a business owner and as someone who's like, I love the fact that I own my own business, you should too, understanding that there are two roads and there's two sides to the coin. Like, yes, absolutely. I do believe if you want to do it, you can find a way. 100% for almost everybody. I do believe that regardless of your circumstances, like regardless of where you grew up, how you grew up, what your things are, like what issues you have, like whatever, regardless of your circumstances, I do believe that if you want to start a business, if you want to do a thing, if you want to hit a goal, whatever, if you will like do the work, you can do it. But that looks different for everybody. And that's the other side of the coin, you know, it's like our circumstances are not all the same, you know? So when I quit my corporate job, I've told this story 1,000 times, but when I quit my corporate job, I quit when my oldest son was born. And I quit because I was like, you know, I don't want to work this job anymore. It's stupid. I had a horrible experience in my corporate job, but like that was why I was quitting, but also to stay home with my son. And we couldn't afford it. And I've talked about that before. Like we could not afford it. This meant that like me quitting meant that I sold my car. I drove a borrowed car from my parents for a few months. My husband sold his truck and drove a truck that was older than we are for a lot of years. He only got a new truck 4 years ago, and our son's 11. You know, so like a lot of years. And like all of these things that we cut down our cable bill. I gave up my, at the time, my BlackBerry. Fun story, fun little aside. I worked at a phone company, and that phone company also sold cell phones for another company that they partly own. Anyway, so part of my job was selling cell phones. And there was not yet a contract with Apple and the company I worked with, the local cell phone company, to provide Apple. Like you couldn't get an Apple phone on that service provider. I now do not even use that service provider, so it wouldn't matter. But at the time, there wasn't really another option because it's pretty like monopolized. And so you couldn't get an Apple phone. And the best we could get was like a BlackBerry. No joke. Like, anyway, I gave up my BlackBerry and I switched back to a pink Razor phone. We made a lot of sacrifices to make this happen around the fact that the main priority was keeping our home, because at the time we lived in a house that we had just built, and it was in the middle of family land. And so like there was not a scenario where we could sell the house and downsize the house at that moment. It did eventually happen. We did eventually do that, and that led us to this house, which is a different story. But my point is, we made a lot of sacrifices to make this happen, with the main goal to be I'm home and we keep our house. And we made all these sacrifices and still couldn't afford it. I didn't have health insurance for a lot of years. There were many months we'd get to the end of the month and have like $12 in our checking account. So yeah, I mean, there were a lot of weeks where my husband had to eat like crackers for lunch, or eat out of the vending machine, because that was the best he had. We couldn't spend all this like extra frivolous money on like food, other than like the food we had at home. Anyway, you get the gist. Like we were not in a good financial situation, like at all. And I quit my corporate job to stay home with my kid. Like that was the main goal. It was never to start a business, even though the business was the means at which I could stay home with my kid, But like my circumstances were not ideal by any means. I guess my point in saying all of this is that like I definitely did not have all of these like perfect scenarios to allow me to quit corporate and start a business. Like I quit my job to stay home with my son, and we'd make a lot of accommodations to make that happen. And I did not have an easy road doing that, But you know what I did have? I had a spouse that was like semi-supportive. He wasn't super supportive. We've talked about that before. I've talked about that before on my podcast specifically. He wasn't, and he would admit that. Like, he was not super supportive because, like, we were going to be poor for a minute, and he knew that. There was, like, no evidence that all of this could work. There was no evidence that, like, I could make money. There was no evidence that, it was all going to be okay. Like, we didn't have any, reassurances. So, but I did have a spouse who was okay with me quitting my job. I also had a spouse who had income coming in, right? And so, like, that alone makes my situation different than someone like a single mom or, someone who doesn't have that, who doesn't have the support or who doesn't even have, the second income coming in, right? Or it makes my situation different because I had kids and somebody doesn't, or, whatever the scenario is. We all have a different situation. Now, do I think that in most cases we can beat our situation, beat our circumstances, and like go forward and do the things? Absolutely. I think a lot of self-help is not taking into consideration other people's circumstances, other people's situations, other people's scenarios, like it's just, this is what works, because it worked for me, but that's not always the case, I don't know. This is definitely one of those, like, I see both sides things, because I do see the side of somebody writing a self-help book who's like, listen, I understand that, like, your circumstances aren't ideal, or you had this happen, or this was a thing that happened to you, or like whatever, right? But you can get past that, because I truly do believe that. But I also see the other side where, like, everybody's circumstances are different, and, what I can get past, what you can get past, the ease of getting past things could be different based on our circumstances, somebody who, I don't know, is trying to leave an abusive relationship. Like, think about that all on its own, right? Like, if this was like a self-help book prescriptive to leaving an abusive relationship, there's thousands of different ways somebody could be abusive. Probably not thousands. There's a lot though. People can be abusive in the fact that in like a verbal way. People can be abusive in a physical way. People can be abusive in an emotional way. It could be like narcissistic, like whatever the scenario is. And the situation is just different for each person in each situation. And so all of our lives are that way too. And so to prescribe a formula of this will fix your situation is not necessarily the truth, So I think for me, in my opinion, and like what this looks like from like a deep dive perspective, is that like everything is not, like all things are not equal, And when we use self-help as a weapon against people, that's a problem. I think that's when it's the problem. When it's used as a weapon / it's used as a prescription. Because just like with like medicine, right? Like the same medicine may not work on two different people with the same problem. That's why we have 14 million different like antibiotics, So it's kind of the same thing, is like when self-help gets prescriptive rather than motivational, and or when it's used as a weapon against certain people or to get people to do a certain thing. But then it goes, okay, so we've talked about those two things, right? Like prescriptive and a weapon, right? And prescriptive is what I just talked about. Weaponizing is, like you are the problem. You can't grow in this MLM. You can't grow in this business. You can't do this thing because of you. And here's 4 stories as to why that's the case. And if you can't do the thing, it's because of you, and I'm going to like further tell you how bad you are to make you feel worse, to make you buy more things, or to get even deeper, or whatever the scenario is. But the third way I think self-help can be like problematic is when the solution to the problem is just to buy more of their things. See, this is where I have a problem with Tony Robbins. Hands down, for sure. Now, I don't think that this falls in the same category as like they wrote a self-help book and They gave some tips, and one of those tips was to like meditate, and then they gave you a meditation. Like, I think that's very different than, okay, I'm going to tell you everything that's going wrong in your life. I'm going to tell you how I had those same things happen, and I'm going to show you how I picked myself up and I got it done. And in order for you to have the next like step to this, the lock, the keys, I guess, to like the next thing that is going to help you get past it, you're going to have to pay me to do that. Like, I think that's where the problem is coming in. And I think that like, that's a lot of the reason that like, when I sent the email to my list and they were like, oh my gosh, yes, that's a lot of the reason people feel that self-help is kind of in this same arena, is because at some point it's not self-help anymore if you're only relying on the person that you're getting it from to help you, and like they're just getting richer from it. I have no problem with somebody hustling, somebody making a business. But when they're playing with people's lives, or really like preying on vulnerable people. Why can I not say that? Like, vulnerable is a very hard word for me. That's a problem. And we don't talk enough about, because again, I said this in my MLM episode, but I'm a big fan of personal responsibility. Absolutely. But like, we don't talk enough about the fact that sometimes people are not in a position to make decisions, There are mental health reasons, there are emotional reasons, there are life circumstance reasons where someone shouldn't be left alone with a credit card in the presence of Tony Robbins, Like, that shouldn't be the case. So, I don't know. It's just a very interesting thing to dive into. And I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts. Like, how do you feel about this? Like, has a self-help book or seminar or whatever changed your life? Have you seen like predatory behavior? Have you been in an MLM where they weaponized self-help against you? So again, going back to my story from the beginning, like I saw a meeting where they were basically like, Rachel Hollis told you to do this. Like, Rachel Hollis, da-da-da. And they were basically like, oh, do I have buttons for that? Hold on. Like, I feel like I have a button for something that's similar to that noise I just made. We're going to see. Are you ready? Because I have to put on my headphone to be able to see, because I can only hear it. Hold on. That's not it. Although that's pretty good. There it was. Rachel Hollis. I feel like that's what they were doing in this meeting, was like putting her on a pedestal where she was like the god of their company. And if she could do it, blah, blah, blah. But then she turned right around in her newest book and literally bit the hand that fed her, because she made her millions. Oh, so I went to her business conference, and I think I did a podcast episode. I don't think I did a YouTube video, but I think I did a podcast episode about my thoughts, and generally they were fairly positive. I felt like it was a good conference. I felt like she really, I think she's a really smart businesswoman, like as far as like the business structure goes, and riding a wave, like understanding how to like take advantage of things. I really do. I think she's like great in that capacity. But all that being said, I was at her business conference, and she was talking in the business conference, I remember it well, about how I hope you can't hear my kids in the background. They got home in the middle of this recording, and I really want to finish this, but also I'm a mom, so here we are. But she was talking about how, and I can't remember how it was brought up. I think she brought in like a financial planner, maybe. This was when her and Dave were still together, and basically they had like gold bars, and she like referred to it as like all she wanted to do was like sit in these gold bars like the duck. Oh, it's like Daffy Duck's uncle or grandpa. You know what I'm talking about. Scrooge McDuck? No. Anyway, she basically wanted to sit in the middle of these gold bars because that's what it felt like. And her financial advisor had advised them to put some of their money and fortune in gold bars. And those gold bars, y'all, came from speaking on stage at MLMs. I feel like not the first, but like the majority of her rise to fame was through MLMs. Like, the book took off in MLMs. The MLMs were like, oh shit, let's get this girl to speak at our conferences. I could name you like 18 conferences that had her as the keynote speaker. I know for a fact Arbonne did that year. I remember her maybe speaking at Monate. I don't know. You know, I follow people on Instagram and things. But that is the majority of where her income came from. She was making 6 figures from each of these speaking engagements. Her income wasn't coming from their business coaching or selling their, journal in Target. And it probably wasn't really coming from her book sales. Now, I'm certain, especially for Girl Stop Apologizing, that she got a massive advance. I don't know about Girl Wash Your Face. I don't know about Girl Stop Apologizing, but I would guarantee that she got a pretty substantial advance based on the success of Girl Wash Your Face. And so, while yes, that was a decent chunk of money, I'm sure she wasn't, they don't make a ton of sales, or they don't make a ton of income from the sales of the book. So the way, if you don't know, the way, and it's funny, I listened to Jewel on Joe Rogan's podcast, and she was talking about how in the music industry, it's the same thing. You get an advance to record this album or whatever, the scenario is, and then you get a certain percentage or a certain amount of each album sale. And I don't know how that works now with the fact that we have things like Spotify and whatever. I assume that Spotify license it. I don't know. But that's not the point. The point is, she turned down the advance because the way that advances work in both the publishing world and in the music world, which I didn't know that. I mean, I guess I did. I guess I probably would have known that, but it didn't hit me until she was talking about it, is that it's basically like a loan and you pay it back in sales. So like, okay, I'm such and such publisher. I want to pay you a $100,000 advance, right? Like, we want this book. We're going to pay you $100,000. But then they only get, like a percentage of every book sold after that $100,000 point, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. So, and this may not be the case with all publishers. Like, it's not Bible, but I know it is with a lot, because I've had these conversations, is like, at a certain point, they consider this a wash, and then you start making royalties from the books sold. So let's say $100,000 is the equivalent of 50,000 book copies of your book, And so once you sell 50,000 copies of the book, then you have paid back your loan, right? Like, you've paid back this advance, and you can now make commission from the sales of the book. But it's usually very, very minimal, like 1%, maybe not even that. And I think it's the same with record sales, as far as what Jewel was saying in this interview, which, by the way, great interview. If you have not ever heard Jewel's story, even if you have, because I remember watching like a VH1 thing on her in the 90s, because she was like new and, like a thing. But if you haven't like watched her story or listened to her story, like her episode with Joe Rogan, however you feel about him, is great. She has a crazy story, like insane. But anyway, she negotiated her first record deal. She turned down the advance. She only took enough, like her negotiation was like enough to live on, and then a larger commission of the sales of her album. And so I believe she said in the interview that at that point, that was the largest deal someone had gotten as far as like on the commission side of the deal. But anyway, all of that to say, so this is, I get off topic a lot. Off topic. Okay. So, where was I going with this? So, okay. So all of that to say, yes, Rachel probably made a decent amount of money from Girl Stop Apologizing and the advance from that, because I'm sure she had a decent advance from Girl Wash Your Face, but they probably didn't predict the the blow up of that quite as much as they did Girl Stop Apologizing, because it was literally riding the heels of Girl Wash Your Face's success. And so, yes, but like the majority of her income, and I guarantee it, if you look at her bottom line, came from speaking on these MLM stages. Again, that is speculation. I can't state that for fact, but I guarantee that's where it came from. And so for her to turn around and for her to be idolized by these MLMers, right? For her to say, or for them to be like, she's got it figured out. She knows everything about how to do anything, and she is amazing, and she's she's our secret, for that to be the case. And then for them to idolize her, for her to have made her fortune speaking on these stages as a byproduct of her book, right? Like the book is what afforded her the ability to do that. And then those paid her, well. And then for them to, again, idolize her, to like lift her up as some like magical solution and something they should all be reaching for. And then for her to turn around and literally shit on them. Like in her newest book. I didn't read it. But I have read the excerpt. I have seen it, and it is something to the effect of, I'm not quoting this because I don't know. I didn't care enough to go look it up. Honestly, but, it's something to the effect of like, MLMs are not businesses. You do not have a business. You, should not be doing this. Like, and then she calls them stupid. She says, don't be dumb. I remember that. And while I agree with what she says in the book about MLMs, whatever the quote was I read, like that they're not businesses, that they're not whatever, they're not. The MLM is a business. You do not own a business if you sell an MLM. I've talked about that before, and it was definitely in my MLM deep dive. But she called them stupid. She was like, don't be dumb. Like literally referring to MLM people. And they literally were the hand that fed her. So she literally bit the hand that fed her. And I say literally, I mean figuratively, you know what I mean? And so it's like, at what point is that dangerous? Like at what point, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people probably at that point, I know they did because it was all over social media, but I feel like that was like the point where people had their eyes open. So remember when I was talking earlier about how like once you have your eyes opened on something, you can't really close them. I don't know. I feel like this setup is not, I don't know. I could sit back in my chair a little. I could put my feet up. I don't know. I might get a chair. Anyway, I feel like, sorry. I feel like, once their eyes were opened, like a lot of MLMers had their eyes open to the fact that she was not Jesus, or whatever character you would want to like put on a pedestal. And that's a crappy way to like know you've just lived your life, And so I think that right there inherently is like the biggest problem with self-help, is that the people are put on pedestals, right? Like the people are up here, and inevitably they will fall. Inevitably. I learned a long time ago not to put people on pedestals, not to see people as an aspiration or, as someone who I thought had it all together, because I know they don't. And everybody knew Rachel Hollis was going to fall from fame. Everybody knew that because everybody does, However, I don't know if everybody knew it would be self-inflicted like it has been. And I think that's kind of the interesting part too, is like how self-inflicted she, like how much it was rooted in her own crap. Like she didn't have to fall from fame in that way. Like, she could have rode that out and done pretty well for herself and, started another business or like took it another direction once she saw it kind of going in flames. But like she literally lit the match. So that's a conversation for a different day. Anyway, I just think that like self-help, I guess my whole point is to say that self-help has a place, right? Like self-help has a place. And I think that it's good in some ways. I think it's great in some ways. I think there are lives changed from self-help. I know there are lives changed from self-help. I think that there are people who in the right moment in their life needed that thing. And I even think that about, a Tony Robbins conference. Like I think that sometimes, I think there's just this great pairing of sometimes of like this person in the right scenario to hear this thing, it will change their life. But to take advantage of the person in the right scenario is where self-help goes bad. And if that is the case, if that is like what people's goal is, that's where we get bad. Like Tony Robbins knows, because he has studied things like NFT and like whatever. He knows how to talk to someone in a way that it's like, I've been there, I understand what you're going through. I'm going to get you through it, like he knows how to do that. And I think that a lot of self-help people, like I think a lot of people who end up writing self-help books are writing them because they read other self-help books and they thought, this changed my life. This was great for me. So how can I do this for other people? And I think that's great. But not if we're just all regurgitating the same thing, and not if it doesn't actually help people in the long run, and is predatory, like I just think that there's like a problem when we start like, being predators, I guess is the best way to say that. Like there is a problem when we are like being people who are specifically targeting a certain group of people because they know that they have risk factors or vulnerabilities that make them more likely to need this book or this conference or this thing. And then at the book, at the conference, at the thing, like in the book, at the conference, at the thing, we then play on that and prey on that, right? To get them even more vulnerable to then sell them our things. I think that's a problem. Or to then follow us to the depths or the end of the earth. So I attended Rachel Hollis's Rise Business Conference. I did. It was in Charleston, South Carolina. I drove. It was great. It was a great conference. Sorry. It really was. Like I can't really say a lot negative about it. I do know like you've heard people talking about how she said she owned the audience and she could sell them anything. And she did say that. But like overall, I felt like the conference was really good. And it was great to hear from other speakers and it was mostly motivational, some strategy, some not, But what I will say is that and I'm sure the Rise, like the regular Rise conference, was the same way in a more aggressive way, probably. And from what I've seen of Tony Robbins conferences, like same thing, which I think she stole from him, right? But there were a lot of points. I am not a performative, emotional person. Let's say that. I hate when people are like forcing me to be emotionally vulnerable. If I want to do that, I'm going to do that on my own, like I would rather not be forced to do it. And I also am not going to do it in front of people. And so like to have like a group meditation, which by the way, I just realized recently that I am the person who doesn't see things when they close their eyes, which makes so much sense because I was watching TikTok, as one does, and people were talking about like, how you, like you say, like visualize yourself on a beach, right? Like you're like, close your eyes, visualize yourself on a beach. The people actually see themselves on a beach. I don't see anything when I close my eyes. I don't see pictures. It's called something. I didn't realize that was weird, but it also makes sense because visualization does not work for me. I don't understand it. I always just thought I was easily distracted, which I am, but I always just thought that was like why I couldn't like visualize myself on a beach, It's like why, I don't know, I'm going to lean back a little, but like why when I close my eyes, if you're wondering, I don't see anything. I just see black. Now, could I imagine a beach? Yes, but it's like back here. I don't know how to explain this. It's like it's in the back of my head. It's not in the front of my eyes. It's not in front of my eyes. It's not showing up there. There's not a picture. It's not like I'm watching a movie, And I think that that's weird. I think that most people at least see what they're thinking of. Like if I closed my eyes, like if, I was trying to remember, like my grandpa has passed away. If I'm trying to like remember my grandpa's face, if I close my eyes, I cannot picture his face. Like, it's not like I can like draw a picture of his face in front of my eyeballs. I can't. It's just black. But can I remember what he looked like? And like my memory brings that out? Yes. It's very strange. I think I would have a hard time describing or identifying people, describing people in like a crime scene. I think maybe I could identify people, but I think I would have a hard time describing people. Like, oh, you witnessed this crime, like come down and view the lineup. Like, I think I would have a hard time doing that because I can't see things in that way. And so describing things is harder for me, that I have to like think back on. Anyway, where was I going with that? Like, okay, so I went to we see things, we visualize. And there we go, meditation. So for somebody to like, for me to be at a conference, and I've been at a ton of conferences where they tried to do this, and people are like, sit there, close your eyes and like do the things, like visualize this and like blah, yoga. Yoga's a great example. I can't handle it. I can't handle it because I'm just not that person. I don't know. It all feels a little like frilly and fruity to me. Like I just don't care. So all of that to say, during Rachel's conference, there were multiple times where she asked us to close our eyes, visualize, things like that. Also things where we had to like hold the weight of other people's problems. Does that make sense? I don't know. I think I'm trying to think of like what I actually experienced versus what I've just read and seen about. But like I've read and I've seen, it may have happened there, but I don't think it did at the business conference. But like where she's like, hold your sister's problem, like write it down, pass it around. We definitely didn't do that. Did we? I need to consult Jacqueline. Jacqueline went with me. And by the way, if you're new here, Jacqueline is she's not old. The podcast is just old. My ex, she's also not an ex. We're still great friends. I'm actually going to meet her in a few weeks and she's going to do one of these deep dives with me, which is going to be super fun. But, she and I used to host a podcast together and, it was called All Up in Your Lady Business, which is super fun. And, yeah, anyway, so we went together to this conference, so I need to ask her. But anyway, there's a lot of like performative emotion, it felt like. And that is literally designed to get you in your feels, to get you to a place where you feel broken, you feel sad, you feel like whatever the scenario is, like whatever they're trying to get you to do, so that they can be the one to pick you up. And like, that's where I think a lot of the problem lies, So is self-help all a scam? No, I don't think so. In my opinion, I don't think self-help is a scam. I think that, there are three main categories where it's a problem, and that's it being prescriptive, like you have to do this or else. It being used as a weapon, like you're not doing this because you're not doing everything I said to do. And then also when it is like set up in a way where the only next solution or the next right move is to buy something from them or go to their next thing, or, they are the ones who get to pick you up. So because it's not self-help, that's like, I am an idol, I will help you, I don't know. It's just interesting. Let's see. I have eerie music. Let's see. Nope, that's birds. Nope, that's ba-da-pum. There we go. So is self-help bad? No, not all of it. But some of it is. I have way too much fun. Oh, that's not the one I meant to hit. I have way too much fun with this. Especially once I like start programming my own sounds. Like I want to have like intro music and, all the things. I think it'll be super fun. Anywho, that's it. We're going to wrap it here. My experience with self-help is, laced throughout this episode. Hopefully, that gives you like a good snapshot of where I think it can be predatory, and like what it is and how it's being used. Where I think it can be good, because I didn't hit on that a lot. I did talk about that a little bit, but a lot of the parts where I think it can be good is when you read something, you go to something, whatever, and it's the right sentence that you needed to hear to like move yourself to a better place, but be really careful with self-help in that the person is not the next step, that the person and their things are not what's going to pick you up, because it's not, I don't know. This has a lot of overlaps with religion too, which could be a conversation for another day. But anywho, I hope y'all are loving these deep dives. I know that a lot of you said you loved the MLM one. And remember that you can listen. This one's really long. I'm thinking this one's like 2 hours long. I don't know. I've been going, like, I'm trying to look at my camera. Oh, I can look here. 35 minutes this time. And I for sure went 40 minutes before. So it's a little over an hour. Anyway, long. That's what she said. Long. And if you want audio versions, instead of sitting here and watching me talk to myself, which is a little bit weird, to be honest, then you can get that at heyjessica.com/curiosity, T spelled TEA. And I'll link that below in the description. And then if you have any ideas for other deep dive topics, please let me know. I am loving y'all's ideas. Like, there were so many left in the comments of the MLM video, but also so many of you sending me Instagram messages, and I have gotten some of the best suggestions. Like why are TJ Maxx? This one was sent to me by Jessica Winter. So Jessica, shout out to you. But like, why is like TJ Maxx, Ross, and Marshalls all owned by the same company? Why are they different? Why are some of them bad? Why are some of them good? I don't know. Like, I don't know, but that would be cool to dive into. But also things that like I want to dive into, like blogging. Is blogging dead? Like, what are blogs? Who are the bloggers? Like, what are the things? Influencers is coming soon. It really is. I hope. Did that fly just fly in my drink? No, it did not. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know if this is going to stay a video version of a podcast or not. I don't know what I'm going to do with the podcast. Like, I'm very torn, but here's what I do know. I do know that I need you to watch these. If you like them, I need you to watch them, or pay to listen to them. Like, that's what I need to, that's what I know. Because I'm basically using the content I have currently, like, on the schedule, which is through December, or taking out the week of Christmas and stuff, of these deep dives as a test to see if y'all like them or not. Because I don't know. I just think it's fun. And I think it's fun. I would love to like jam on this all the time. I would love to get together. Like, us literally get in the same room and chat out these things, because there's so much, like, I don't know, there's so many opinions on everything, and I love it. Anyway, I need y'all to watch, I need y'all to listen, and I need y'all to comment and let me know if you're liking this or not, because I think like that's all I have to measure it on. And I want to keep doing this, but do we need video? Would we rather just put the audio on a podcast player, and not have it be, sorry, I'm moving that around again, but not have it be even a video podcast? Like, I'm okay with that. I don't know what I would do on YouTube at that point, because that's kind of what's on the plan, but that doesn't mean I couldn't do it. And I couldn't do something else on YouTube or come up with fun things. That was my Voxer alert. I forgot to answer a Voxer to Laura. I'm so sorry, Laura. If you don't use Voxer with your friends and with your team, it's great, because you don't have to answer messages right then. And you can talk as long as you want. The cutoff's 15 minutes, full 14 minutes and 59 seconds. And I have hit that a lot. If you can't tell, get to the point, Jessica. Get to the point. Okay. Anyway, I think that's all. I hope y'all enjoyed this. let me know in the comments here on YouTube. You can also, if you're listening to the audio version, hit me up on Instagram. Even if you're watching the video, hit me up on Instagram at Jessica Stansberry. I'll pop it across the screen on the video version because I want to hear your opinions. I want to hear what you're talking about. And it's funny. Okay, one last thing. So what's funny to me, or not funny, what's intriguing to me about this, about doing deep dives and about like, I don't know, just having a conversation. Because not that it's necessarily a deep dive, like in that I am like researching the piss out of stuff. And I am, but like, anyway, it's more about me like jamming out on topics that are interesting to me and hopefully are interesting to you too. And, where was I going with that? Like, why was I telling you that? I guess basically just to say that I love this and I hope that you guys like it as much as I do. And I think that it's like a fun, entertaining thing, but I'd also like to do like businessy topics, like, do we want to deep dive on Gilmore Girls? And by deep dive, I mean just me talking about like my favorite episodes, which I think could be fun. I don't know. I would love to do that. But I also have to figure out how this all works and what it all looks like and how I make money. Oh, speaking of Gilmore Girls, I added some new merch to the shop, some new Gilmore Girls merch. I'm hoping that it's here by the time I film my next video / podcast episode, because I want to wear it. But if you want to check out the merch shop, it's just heyjessica.com/merch. It's always linked in the description. But there's like 3 new options. 3? Yes. 3 new options. All Gilmore Girls based, which is just like spectacular. Yeah, like, I don't know. I just have fun chatting with y'all, and I have fun chatting. I like to talk to myself. I'll be honest. I don't like to talk to myself. I like to know that somebody's going to listen. But one of my like childhood best friends, my childhood best friend, her mom, I saw her, I don't know, a couple years ago now, but at a point where I was making a living talking like this, and she was like, I just always knew that you would make a living with by talking. She was like, you talk all the time. And like, why would you not monetize that? And I'm like, I know. I feel like the older I get, the more I like need some time to back up off of talking, but I do love to talk. So anyway, my light is leaving for the video, and it's going to start being trash. So let me know if you liked it. I'm excited to talk about more things. Bye, y'all.